Find the equation of the line that passes through the point -3, 5 with the slope of -7/2. So we have a point, -3, 5, and we have a slope. If we have a point and a slope, we want to use the point slope form of the equation. The point slope form says y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. There's a few things to notice in this formula. Notice the y1 and the x1. Those are the x and y coordinates from the one point that you're given. Here's our one point that we've been given. So in this one point, the -3 would be our x coordinate and the -5 would be our y coordinate. So if we label them, this would be x1 and this would be y1. These are the x and y coordinates of the one point we're given. Also notice in this one, you have y and x. There's not a subscript on these. There's no x1, y1, there's no x2, y2, there's just y and just x. So these you leave alone. Don't put anything in for the x and the y, you just leave them alone. I'll show you why in a moment. And then you'll also notice that we have an m. This m right here is our slope. We're told that we have a slope of -7/2. So that slope is going to take the place of our m. So let's see what we figured out. We said that we do not put anything in for y, we just leave it. y1 we have labeled as our -5. Now be careful, we have subtraction right here, and we have a negative right here. So we'll put in our subtraction from right here, and we'll put in our negative from our -5. Equals m we said is -7/2. That's the slope that we're given, parenthesis. Don't put anything in just for the x. And x1 we're told is -3. So we have subtraction from here, subtraction carries down. But we also have a negative from right here. So there's our -3. Let's clean this up a little bit. Minus a negative means that we can add the opposite. So this will look like y plus 5 equals -7/2 times x plus 3. If we keep going, notice now we have an x and a y, so we can simplify our equation and we can put it as y equals in terms of x. That's why we don't want to substitute anything in here. We need something that we can solve for. And in this case, we're trying to get to y equals so that we can find the equation of the line. Our goal is to make this say y equals and then have the equation of our line. So we need to distribute our -7/2. That will give us y plus 5 equals -7/2 times x is -7/2x. I'll use this as some scrapbook space over here on the side. We need -7/2 times 3. And it would be 3/1 if we needed to make that a fraction. When we multiply fractions, we multiply the top, we multiply the bottom. 7 times 3 is 21. A negative times a positive is a negative. So -21 on the top. 2 times 1 is 2. So -21/2 is what we'll get when we distribute our -7/2 times 3. So -21/2. Now we're almost finished. We need to get rid of this plus 5 right here. In order to get rid of plus 5, we do the opposite. So we subtract 5. That will leave us with y equals. The -7/2 isn't changed. We have our -7/2. We have the x that isn't changed. But we now need to subtract 5 from our -21/2. So let's put it over here. So -5. Well, before I can subtract, I have to have a common denominator. This was over 1, so to make a common denominator, I can multiply by 2, which means we would have -21/2 times 10/2. We're subtracting, so not times. Let's do our subtraction. So then we have our -21, and we are subtracting 10. So -21 minus 10 more is -31. And it is still over 2. We've solved it for y equals. We have our equation for our line. Let's try the next one. Find the equation of the line with a slope of 2/5 and a y-intercept of 4. This is very similar to the one we just did. The thing that you have to recognize is y-intercept is a point. It's a very special point. The y-intercept is where the graph crosses the y-axis. So at this point, if the graph is crossing the y-axis, x is going to have a variable value of 0, and y is going to have a value of 4. So it's the same idea as the one that we were just working on, but now we have our point 0, 4. So let's label it x1, y1, and this will be our m. So using our same equation, y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Let's substitute in what we know. We know we don't do anything to the y. y1 we have is 4. M we're told is 2/5. X we don't do anything with, and x1 we're told is 0. So let's distribute right here. So y minus 4 equals 2 over 5x. 2/5 times 0 is just 0, so we don't need that. We need to get y by itself. So in order to get y by itself, we need to move this minus 4. We can move the minus 4 by adding 4 to both sides. So that will leave us with y equals 2/5 x. The 4 doesn't have an x on it, so we're just going to tack it on the back because it's not a like term. So that becomes our plus 4. Now, if you recognize this and say, but what about the y equals mx plus b? You can also use the y equals mx plus b form of the line. This is called the slope-intercept form. The y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1, that's called the point slope form. Y equals mx plus b is y-intercept because you have the y-intercept and you have the slope. So we could do the same question here and we could solve it using our slope-intercept form. And it would look like y, because we don't put anything in for the y, equals m is 2/5, and then we have our x, plus our y-intercept. The b value represents the y-intercept, so plus 4. And these are the same. The benefit of using the y equals mx plus b slope-intercept form is it's very direct. The problem is it is sometimes harder. It doesn't work every time. The benefit of using the point slope form is you can use it for a variety of different types of questions. For example, if we wanted to use the slope-intercept form for this question, it would not have been as straightforward. But using the slope-intercept form for this question is okay because we are given our y-intercept directly.